This week's project is going to kind of move forward with the weldments and also assembling configured weldments. So we're going to kind of expand on that a little bit using that same content. So I'm going to share my screen and just kind of talk about the project, that we should be starting on, finish up the go-kart and then move on to this one. So I'm going to share my screen here and we'll talk about this, make sure everybody understands what I'm looking for. Let me get my Zoom thing going. All right, so this is just a table. Okay, so the table is consistent of two parts. There's a top that's A long by B deep and 2 inches thick. So that's one part, and then the legs, the whole entire leg components are all one weldment part. Kind of the caveat to this is that I want you to make 3 different table sizes. So that means the top has to be configured to make 3 different parts, and the legs have to be configured to make 3 different parts. And then you need to make an assembly that's configured to make 3 different assemblies. So, this is going to deal with configurations, and whether you use design tables or not, that doesn't really matter to me. Your drawings will have table dimensions on them, the A and B sizes or whatever. So, that might be a good idea to use the design tables, or you can put in an annotative table and just fill in the blanks. It really doesn't matter to me which approach you use. But the thing is that you'll have to have a top that's configured with 3 parts and the legs that is configured with 3 parts. So I've kind of given some instructions here that should help you do the design work. I'm talking about the shape. So we've got a 3 by 1 3/4 rectangle shape, and then we've got a 2 by 2 C shape. So the C shape is this little channel up here on the top. That's the C shape, and then everything else is the rectangular shape. So the whole, all these pieces will be, the leg components will be one part. That's a weldment part. Does that make sense? Everybody understand that? So I don't want you to make, what I'm saying is I don't want you to make this piece of rectangular tubing and then make an assembly and assemble this piece to it and that piece to it. I want you to make it all one part weldment, just like you do with the go-kart frame. So the go-kart frame's got different profiles, and it's the same case here. This is one weldment part, the whole thing, as far as the metal pieces. The tabletop's a different part altogether. But it'll have 3 configurations. Each of them will have 3 configurations capable of making these total sizes. So these are the finished. This is the finished table model numbers, okay? 72 by 36, 60 by 32, 48 by 30. Those are the finished products. And so you need to build legs that make these finished products. You need to build tops that make these finished products. And so when you get into the assembly, you need to make configured assemblies that's capable of making all 3 of those model numbers. And the way that you do that is you ladies all remember how to configure a dimension, right? If you wanted to change the dimension for a configuration of a part, how do you do that? How do you change the configuration dimension? That's an easy way to change it.
The configuration, I'm trying to remember. That like swapping from model 1 to model 2, or is that?
Okay, so you're talking about actually activating one configuration or the other. I'm talking about you've got all your configurations made, and now you want to set the size A for one configuration versus the other configuration versus the other one. So how do I change that length A for all the different configurations? So what we do is we right click on that dimension and we configure that dimension, and then
Right.
it'll list all the models, it'll list all your configurations, and you put what dimension you want for each configuration. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that's that table thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, don't get confused with a design table, because the design table is a little different, but it's that configure dimension where it'll bring up that dialog box and list all the configurations. You just type in what you want for that dimension. So when you make an assembly, there is a configure component that works the same way. So if you configure the component, you can right click on it and it'll list all the configurations of the assembly, and you can choose which configuration of the component you want in that particular assembly. So you need to set the 72 by 36 tabletop on the 72 by 36 legs in the 72 by 36 configuration. So you have to just put all the right pieces together so that, like Elizabeth said, you can activate each different model number and the sizes are right and the right parts are on there. And this is the weldment profiles that we did last time, this configuring these weldment parts and that sort of thing, and then plus the sheet metal stuff that we're going to do next week. Those are all big players in your final project. So you kind of want to wrap your mind around this table project really well, because it's going to come back again on the final project. So what I'm looking for you to turn in for a grade on this project is we're going to create a drawing for the tabletop. You know, so it's going to be a table drawing. You're going to have dimensions A and B, and each configuration of that tabletop needs to have a unique part number, right? And then in that part number, you'll have an A and B dimension on that drawing. And then I want you to submit a single drawing of the legs, all welded, you know, it's a weldment, all the leg pieces. And it's also going to be a table drawing with A and B. You know, maybe it doesn't have, yeah, it's going to have B too. So A and B dimensions. Now, the go-kart, we inserted a cut list because there was just one configuration for the go-kart. Because there's going to be 3 configurations of this tabletop leg, we're not going to want to put in a cut list. The cut list and configurations really is not where it needs to be at this point. It doesn't do a good job just differentiating between which configurations which, you know, it just, or else I haven't learned how to do it, and that could be it too. But it doesn't seem to work very well generating a cut list. The cut list is only for the active configurations, unfortunately. I've not tinkered with it a lot, but what I've found is I didn't like it. It didn't do what it should do. So we're not going to include the cut list on the leg weldment parts. We're just going to include the table drawings with the dimensions A and B for each configuration. But each configuration will need its own unique part number. So that's 2 drawings. And then finally, we want an assembly drawing showing the top, front, and right side, an ISO view, and then the table with the A and B dimensions, and basically it'll be this table right here on the assembly drawings. So it's just real generic dimensions. And realistically, there'd be some screws holding this stuff down. You know, if you want to poke some holes in there, that's fine, but that's really not the intent of this. I don't think I've got, oh yeah, I do. Okay, so I guess we do have to put some holes and mount use some fasteners in there, you know, and I know we've got some trouble with some fastener components, but I will include some wood screws or something that will come up from the bottom. I'll put those in the assignment and just poke holes for that. So you'd need to put maybe, you know, at least 2 holes on each end, maybe 3 on the C channel. And I don't think there's any point in pre-drilling those into the wood. We would just screw those into the wood. If you felt like pre-drilling them into the wood, that'd be okay too. All right, so a lot going on there. Does everybody kind of understand what I'm saying, or we need to talk about it a little bit further?
I think I understand.
When you start putting it together, you may run into anything, and that, you know, I can certainly try to clear that up if you get confused or something. But I'll include some fasteners, and I'll give some hole size recommendations for that fastener in the assignment within the next few minutes here. But go ahead and finish the go-kart frame first, and then start on this. But this is real similar to the way the final project's going to be, as far as setting the drawings up and working with the configurations and configuration, configuring the components. So we're going to end up with an assembly file that has 3 configurations, and we're going to end up with 2 part files that each have 3 configurations. And then, the assemblies are going to have the right configuration for each one of it in the right spot. Piece of cake, right?